it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the ECEEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob.
And we are
From the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the ECEEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob.
And we are
From the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what's happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the ECEEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob
And we are
from the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what's happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the ECEEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob
And we are
from the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what's happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the EC-EEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob
And we are
from the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what's happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to practice advocacy for energy efficiency is quite amazing. You can gather people from all over Central Eastern Europe for this purpose.
That's the second edition of the C4E Forum, and I think it's very relevant. I get used to attend the EC-EEE as well, but the C4E is really focusing on the area, and it's very important to be in contact with those stakeholders.
I really do appreciate that the atmosphere is so relaxed and friendly, which really helps you to make not just work connections, but some real friendships.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, we're all looking at case studies, we're sharing examples, and if this could be in some way formalised, I think that would be a very positive thing, because there is a great social buzz and there's some good activities.
Hi, I'm Marcela.
I'm Jacob
And we are
from the Czech Republic.
I learned so far that this forum is a great chance and opportunity how to bring people together and to speak about the same issue from different perspectives.
It is a great challenge to make people work together in order to achieve building renovation.
It's better if people like we are from Europe can meet in this region, because it's their own region, and it's also for another people a good opportunity to visit these countries and see what's happened here.
For me, it's definitely networking, to meeting different people.
I think there's been several highlights actually. Sitting here in this meeting room this Friday afternoon, more than 30 people speaking about how to
Hello everyone and welcome to the C4E webinar. This webinar is part of the Central and Eastern Energy Efficiency Forum, C4E 2020 edition, that should have been organized in Romania last year. It includes online events and community forum in Romania, and we hope that we will join together with you in the beautiful mountain resort Poiana Brașov in September this year. It is my pleasure, on behalf of the C4E Forum Organization Committee, to welcome you at our Energy Efficiency Community meeting here, where we will discuss the European funding available for building renovation and see how we can ensure that it's fully used to increase its speed and depth in Central and East European countries. The webinar today will be moderated by Mr. Peter Robel, Chairman of the Board Buildings for the Future. Hello, Peter. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and please introduce today's topics and speakers.
Hello, Horia, and thank you for introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the C4E webinar on renovations in the Central and Eastern European region. And again, my name is Peter Robel. I serve as a chairman of the Board for Buildings for the Future, which is an advocacy organization working with the Slovak government on improving the policies supporting renovation of buildings here in Slovakia. But I also work as a public affairs manager for Eastern Europe in Knauf Insulation, so I sort of know a little bit about the other countries in our region, and I'm very happy to have the honor to moderate the webinar today. As Horia suggested, the context, the topic of the webinar is about funding, which is really available now and here in unprecedented amounts and volumes. We are speaking about recovery and resilience facility, but we are also speaking about cohesion policy funds that will come into play very soon. And knowing a little bit about the countries in our region, I know that there is certainly need, but also an appetite to renovate buildings, to reduce their energy consumption, to improve their state, and to improve the situation about air pollution and to contribute to carbon neutrality by renovation. But how can we use all these funds that now come into play, and how can we use these funds to really increase the rate of renovation and the depth of renovation? That's a topic to be discussed today, and it is my great pleasure to invite speakers who accepted our invitation to participate in today's webinar. We have speakers divided in two panels. In the first panel, which is from the European perspective, we have 4 speakers, and other four speakers will join us later this afternoon in the panel number 2, which is from the national perspective. We hope that this will cover the topic very in depth. And before I welcome the speakers for the first panel, I want to have a few technical remarks. First of all, you may be watching this webinar from Zoom or from c4eforum.net website. If you are watching from Zoom, then you have more functionalities available, and I very much invite you to ask questions using the Q&A functionality in the Zoom platform. I also would like to announce that we will have 2 polls in which you can take part in the Zoom platform. And to everyone, we need to inform you that this webinar is being recorded so that we can then share with you the full length of the webinar as well as edited version for future use and reference. That's for the technicalities, and now I have the pleasure to invite speakers for the first panel, European Perspective panel, and these include Mrs. Iskra Mihailova, who is member of the European Parliament from Bulgaria. Welcome, good afternoon. It's also
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Maria Teresa Fabregas Fernandez from the European Commission. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Mr. Luděk Niedermayer, member of the European Parliament for Czech Republic. Welcome and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Last but not least, Mr. Felix Heilmann from E3G, Germany. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Again, thanks everyone for accepting our invitation. And I will now give floor to all of you to make introductory remarks. And I will start with Maria Teresa, who, due to other important topics in the agenda, will only be able to stay with us until 2:30. So Maria Teresa, can you start from your point of view? I mean, I just want to make sure that our audience understands you work as a director in the Recovery and Resilience Task Force, which reports directly to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. So what is the current status with the funding, and how can the Recovery and Resilience Funds help renovations in Central and Eastern European region? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and I apologize I have to leave, but it's linked precisely to the adoption of the proposals for Council implementing decisions for the adoption of national recovery and resilience plans. So what I would like to do is, first of all, to bring a bit the overall context. No? The picture is that the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which has a provision of up to 672.5 billion euros, that will be disbursed to member states through loans and grants, will play a crucial role in Europe in mitigating the economic and social impact of the pandemic, and also to make European economies and societies more sustainable, resilient, and more better prepared for the green and digital transitions. Member states have to present their national recovery and resilience plans, including reforms and investments that address pre-existing fragilities of the member states' economies that were described in the country-specific recommendations that the Council had adopted in the framework of the European semester. And these country-specific recommendations relate to elements linked to labor market, taxation, education, research, public administration, business environment, structural investment policies, and many other elements. And also, member states will have to present reforms and investments that are linked to both the green and digital transition. Also, member states will have to present plans that include at least 37% of the investments of the expenditure devoted to green transition investments, and at least 20% of the investments of the expenditure linked to digital transition investments. What does it mean for the renovation wave? A lot. It means a lot. Why? Because it's clear for all of us here in the Commission, it has been recognized by the European Commission that the renovation of buildings is a very important action in order to increase energy efficiency in the buildings. So we all know that in terms of emissions, CO2 emissions, the buildings are emitting a lot. And it's absolutely necessary in order to achieve the climate neutrality goal by 2050 to invest in renovation of buildings. And this has been acknowledged by the Commission already in September last year in a communication that we published on the annual Sustainable Growth Strategy, where we indicated some flagships for the recovery and resilience plans. And one of these flagships was to renovate, meaning that by 2025, we would like to see a contribution to the doubling of the renovation rate and the fostering of deep renovation precisely linked to the green transition. Therefore, we are encouraging all member states to include this type of investments in their plans. And we are also encouraging member states to include relevant reforms in their plans in order to facilitate these investments, in order to make sure that the right administrative environment is there to support this renovation. I would highlight now, so very shortly, where we are in terms of the state of play on the plans. So we have received already 23 plans from the member states, and we are in the process of assessing them in accordance with the legal requirements of the regulation adopted by the European Parliament and the Council. And this process will lead us, European Commission, to present a proposal for a Council implementing decision accompanied by a document that will justify that the plan is in line with the assessment criteria. And then once we submit this document to the Council has 1 month in order to adopt this document. And afterwards, we will be able, from the Commission side, to start the disbursement to the Member States of a 13% of pre-financing. This is the first payment that we will be doing to the Member States. And then consecutive payments will be linked to the performance of Member States in implementing their reforms and investments. So this is an overall exercise linked to a facility, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is a performance-based instrument and is linked, precisely as said, to the performance of the member states in implementing the reforms and investments. This means that each member state will develop their implementation process for their national measures. And therefore, it's very important, and what we are always saying to all stakeholders, we are encouraging them to contact their national authorities in order to be fully aware of the possibilities of investments, of the use of grants or loans coming from the Recovery and Resilience Facility that go directly to the budget of the member state, but the member state has relevant mechanisms in order to set up the process to implement these reforms, and in particular to implement the reform on the renovation wave. So I would stop here. Thank you. Looking forward for the listening to the other panelists.
Yeah, thank you very much. And since you are short of time, I will take the opportunity to ask 2 questions. The first one is, and you partly touched upon the topic, is about the timing, right? I mean, I know that, as you said, 23 plans have been submitted. That's since the end of April. I'm sure the Commission is, working very hard on assessing them, etc. When do you think we can expect a tour de capitals from Ursula von der Leyen, kicking off the first recovery plans in member states? That's the first question. And the second question is about, as you said, I mean, the implementation on the level of member states will be crucial to delivering the money to markets and delivering the renovation that we are today speaking about. So is there any kind of support? And if yes, what specific support is there available from the European Commission to the member states in implementing the recovery plans and the reforms defined in them?
Thank you, Peter. So concerning your first question, as I just highlighted, and it has been announced, tomorrow we will start adopting at Commission level the proposals for Council implementing decisions. So there will be 2 tomorrow, and in the coming days there will be other more. So this is already announced by the office of the president. Concerning implementation, this is key, and actually, what we here in SG Recover do is to work on the recovery and resilience plan and to make sure that those investments will happen. So to monitor those investments. And then we have other Directorate Generals, because we have been working with all of them, with all the services of the European Commission, that are more devoted to the specific areas of investment and where they can develop, and they have developed. For instance, on the renovation wave, there was a specific communication published some months ago, and they can develop elements to accompany that communication. But it's the responsibility of the member state to implement their own plans. And as said, this implementation will be different in each member state, because the member states are approaching the issue from a different perspective, and also there are different levels of authorities involved in different member states with the responsibility of precisely implementing the investments linked to the renovation of buildings. Thank you.
Thank you again, and that was very informative. I will now give floor to Iskra Mihailova. You, as a member of the European Parliament representing Bulgaria, you have two points of view. One is the European, and at the same time you represent the member state perspective in the parliament. So what is your take on the funds of recovery and resilience funds and the cohesion funding and the renovation of buildings? What's your take on it?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that I thank for the invitation and congratulate the organizers that this is a very timing event with an extremely important topic, because we heard already from the Commission that we have 23 of the national recovery and resilience plans, and we hope we'll have these 4 more very soon. I say this because Bulgarian plan is not between these 23 yet. But let us hope it will be very soon in the Commission for the assessment. But when I tried to prepare for today's meeting and this panel, I focused my attention on the 3 for me very important positions. First of all, this is the synergy between different financial instruments which are available now for the member states and which are extremely important for the central and eastern part of Europe. Of course, we already heard about the Next Generation EU and national recovery and resilience plans, but we know that the cohesion policy and especially European Regional Development Fund and Cohesion Fund can support very much the whole exercise for renovation of the building stock in the European Union. We should not forget the Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe program, which are very, very important for delivering the solutions, the new solutions for the renovation concerning materials, technology, and organization of the works. Life Clean Energy Transition sub-program, we should not forget about this program. Somebody can say only 1 billion, but this is complementary program which can help to the member states to be more coherent in their plans and especially in implementation of their national plans. InvestEU program, European Investment Bank facilities. These are all instruments for which we should not forget, and the good practice should be to organize the national plans, operational programs, and all the instruments in good synergy on national level to assure achievement of good results in the end of all these exercise. The second point I thought preparing for today's debate, it was communication. We have to communicate in better way the whole ambitious goal of the European Commission and as overall European Union for the renovation of the building stock in Europe. Because in some of the member states, we do not have enough good understanding of the issue. We have to communicate that to renovate the buildings of different size and purposes, it means, first of all, energy efficiency. It means smart energy management in this building. It means renewable energy use in this smart energy management. And in the end, it means to achieve the goals of Green Deal and all the goals of the Paris Agreement as a whole. If we speak about the neutrality of European economy, we have to include the buildings, because we know that more than 90, probably 95% of existing now buildings will serve us in 2050 as well. So we have to think about the efficiency of these buildings. And the last point, I'm not going to be so long in my presentation. The last point will be qualification. And what I mean, this is the good quality of the workers in construction sector, which will contribute with the work with new technologies, with the new materials, in the new environment for achievement of the new goals. What means that we have to pay attention to a qualification of the labor in the construction sector. So these are these 3 points I wanted to share with you in the beginning of our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's again very helpful. The next floor will go to Mr. Niedermayer, Ludwig Niedermayer, who is the member of European Parliament for Czech Republic. Again, I will ask the same question. What is your view on the recovery and resilience funds, and how we can improve and increase renovation rate and debt in Europe, in Central and Eastern Europe? Please.
Thank you, and thank you for invitation. Let me start by saying that I guess that Next Generation EU is a very good decision of the Europeans, and the way how to reduce the losses, economic losses caused by pandemic. And for countries like the Czech Republic, this is a great opportunity to really quickly move forward and modernize the economy. But this is where probably good news from my side are ending, because what I want to say at the beginning, I want to chart a little bit scene on which we will be using this money, and rather focus on obstacles that we have in using the funds the way how I described. So that means to significantly speed up transformation of our economy. As we know, since fall of communism, the countries of Central and Eastern Europe have made a huge step forward. Broadly speaking, obviously and unfortunately, in the last few years, we can see deviation from kind of positive trends in many areas. But it's also fair to say that in some areas the progress was not as quick as we expect, despite of very generous contribution of the money for our catch-up progress. Just a few minutes before we started, I looked, for example, on the data on electricity production across the EU. If I look at the proportion of renewables on energy production as of now, I can see that the proportion in V4 countries varies from 19% in Poland to 30% in Hungary. While if I look at our neighbors, Germany 55%, Austria 90%. If we go, let's say, more south west, we would find that both Spain and Portugal stayed at 50%. Clearly, we are lagging behind. And what is the reason for that? So let me point out a few arguments that are setting the scene for or setting the environment at which the good investment should take place. First of all, what we have, one of the problems that we are facing is that we are sometimes mixing the environmental agenda with climate agenda. And as being climate the key priority of the EU for years to come, sometimes the focus on environmental, so that means just cleaning the air, doesn't lead to optimal solution from the point of view of climate. And I can talk about very concrete example in the Czech Republic. Secondly, and this is, I would say, even more serious, I guess the issue of transformation of economy from the point of view of climate and environment is not recognized by important topic, and it's not owned by most of the politicians. And ownership is also very important in such a matters. We are used to invest in these areas, but only if we are given the money. I guess almost none is thinking about using so-called our own money for such an investment. And obviously this is the bad start. And also, and this is failure of state administration, we have big troubles to design good programs how to effectively move forward. First of all, the programs are not stable. They are changing. So it's kind of lottery. You know, the program is opened and closed, and you must find the right moment to go in. Very often the paperwork is very, very complicated. So that's why people, especially small businesses, have to hire the advisors to be able to fill all the papers. And this is obviously increasing cost of administration. And very often, the programs are designed such a complicated way that for small potential applicants, it's not feasible actually to use the program and, for example, to do some kind of simple and efficient renovation. Obviously, there are exemptions, but in majority, unfortunately, these trends prevail. So as the result, we are behind the others. I have mentioned the cleanness of the electricity production, and Poland is now today, as basically almost every day, by far the most dirty producer of the electricity across the Europe. But even the broader data are not good. If you look at Czech need for energy per capita or per unit of GDP, you will find that the economy is not efficient enough, and obviously this applies also to the building. We are not able to design the good plan because we rely on external money. We are trying to somehow fulfill the requirements of European Union that are actually set with our presence. But with less strategic planning, it's much more money spending. And money spending that is missing the priority, is missing the concentration. Last not least, I want to say that very often the regulation is set such a way that it actually leads to higher cost of modernization, especially if we are talking, for example, about decentralized electricity production. So the regulation is increasing cost, then the governments, in order to move things forward, have to increase the subsidies, and then obviously there is a lot of criticism that subsidies are too high to deliver the product. So this is where we stand. I'm quite concerned about it. Obviously, one can say that normal European budget combined with Next Generation EU sets such a huge amount of money that will make progress. And I believe the progress will be significant, but I am far from being convinced that this will be effective progress. So that means that for given money we get the best outcome. And I still have a feeling, and I don't know how it's in other countries in the region, that we still not, or not we, I would say, most of our top level politicians have not mentally entered 21st century. So they are still stuck with the economy of past, and especially in the area of technologies and in the energy generation, in the efficient techniques, how to reduce the consumption. The progress is very, very fast. So that means we focused on economy 10, 15 years ago, obviously leads to a wrong decision. But that's maybe all for the introduction.
Thank you very much. These are very good points, and you're very much right that the recovery money don't come into a vacuum. We already have some challenges, and I can say that perhaps the challenges that you listed are faced in many countries of the Central and Eastern European region. I would like now to ask Felix Heilmann from E3G to present, and these are the only 3 slides we have for today. You analyzed the national recovery and resilience plans using your tracker tool, and so could you give us an insight into how you see and how you assess the plans that we have seen have been submitted, please?
Yes, absolutely. It's my pleasure to do so. And thank you very much for the invitation to this distinguished panel. It's really a pleasure to be here today. Maybe before I start with the specific data we've come up with, very brief introduction. My name is Felix Heilmann. I'm from E3G. We're a climate politics think tank, and together with the Wuppertal Institute, another think tank, we've been looking at recovery plans for the past months and really trying to figure out how much of the spending is supporting the green transition. And one thing I want to say as well, because there's I think a German flag up here, but we've done this always with national partners. So it's not been us sitting in an office far away from the country we're looking at, but we've always worked with think tanks or civil society organizations or academic partners in the countries we're analyzing. So this is always based on really domestic knowledge and experience. Before I share briefly some of the data-based findings I can show, I think I want to briefly just set the stage again. And this has been said before, but I think it's important to emphasize that we're really at a turning point for the green transition, but also I think for European integration with the situation we're in, both through Next Generation EU, but also the new EU climate targets. We're really seeing that the, relevance of what happens at the European level, but also the urgency to really just accelerate the transition on the ground within member states has really increased. And there's now this great opportunity to essentially put money behind the ambitions and the targets we have through Next Generation EU, but also through all the other funds that have been mentioned. So this isn't just, I would say, another normal process, but it's really a very novel process, a process that's obviously taking place under very challenging circumstances. So I have a lot of respect and admiration for all the officials and politicians following it so closely and working on this under very, I think, challenging circumstances. So it's a very exciting and a very important time, I think. I don't know whether my slides are already being shared or whether participants, oh, there they are, perfect. I've just briefly brought 3 points, 3 findings based on data we have with the tracker. We've looked at 15 countries so far. I won't speak at length about our methodology, but you can go to our website, greenrecoverytracker.org, to find the data and our methodology as well. And the first finding that's probably of interest is that buildings are really a priority area for recovery investments, and that's especially true in CEE states. So if we look at the V4+2, we haven't analyzed Hungary yet, states, we see that in all of them except for Slovenia, building investments are actually higher than the average across all the countries we analyzed so far, and Bulgaria with 20% as the highest share. Now, of course, these aren't always the final plans. Sometimes these are draft plans. We've heard that, for example, Bulgaria hasn't finished its plan yet, but we already see a trend here that buildings are a really important area for investing in the recovery, and I would say rightly so, both because the need to bring down emissions in the building sector, but also because essentially all data that's been made on studies that have been conducted on how to invest in a green recovery that also creates jobs and really supports people on the ground now, they've shown that energy efficiency investments are one of the best ways, and maybe even the best way, to create jobs while also greening the economy. Next slide, please. The next slide shows now across all countries how we assess the money that is going into the building sector in terms of its climate benefit. And I think this is quite interesting. So our methodology, which, as I said, you can find on our website, but I won't explain in detail today for time reasons, distinguishes between very positive investments, and then with negative investments, which aren't relevant here, unfortunately, and those investments where we say, well, these measures will have a climate effect, but we can't yet say whether it's positive or negative. So, and what this shows is that 2/3 of the overall investments into buildings we've identified actually in this last category, where we're saying, okay, this matters from a green transition perspective, but it's not possible yet to say this actually will advance the green transition. Now, the very positive measures are easy to describe. These are efficiency measures with strong standards, ambitious targets. That's sort of the first area. The second area is often also efficiency measures, etc., where maybe the standards are a bit less clear. That's the positive bucket. But then we've got these 2/3 of spending where we say, okay, this is really important. There's a lot of money, but we don't yet know whether it will really advance the green transition. And the reasons for this is that it could include some negative elements. For example, we include investments into gas boilers as a negative investment. So if there's an overall component that invests in renovation, but also gas boilers, it lands in that category. It could also just be, for example, investments in new built houses, which don't include clear climate criteria, which of course matter for the green transition, which then again land in this box. So I think what Mr. Bregash mentioned at the beginning, the need to really have the RRP or the RF as a performance-based instrument to really look at, okay, where is the money going? How is it actually being used on the ground is really important. I think our data shows that this is necessary. We can't yet be certain that all the money will automatically go into the right direction. And the last slide, if we could quickly go there, also I think underlines this, because this shows essentially the share of green spending we found in different countries. So I've brought the slide here for all countries, not just the CE countries, the share of green spending. And what we see, and the reason I brought this for all countries is because I think it's important to emphasize this isn't an East-West issue. I mean, sometimes there's this idea of, there's a strong difference between Eastern European states and Western European states when it comes to the green transition. But here we really have a sort of cross-cutting issue that essentially most member states' plans don't clearly make the 37% benchmark. Now, this obviously is a very contentious finding that I'd be happy to discuss in more detail if we have time. But the key reason for this, again, is what I've shown in the previous slide, this large chunk of investments where we said they may benefit the green transition, but it's just not possible to say that this will certainly be the case right now. So I think there we're really looking forward to the Commission's assessments of the plans, which obviously are quite important. I believe there's been a lot of negotiations going on. So this is still from before the negotiations in most cases. So very much looking forward to that. But again, the EU's green recovery and an extension, the greening of buildings, isn't yet secure. And I want to end by just sort of outlining 3 points to answer the question that's been posed. How can we ensure that EU funding is really increasing the depth and speed of building renovation in Europe? And I think there's 3 points that have really come out of our analysis and our conversations with national experts on the ground. The first one is, of course, we need really clear standards. If we invest into buildings now, there should be requirements that require sufficiently ambitious enough renovations. If the money is being used to not actually achieve a sufficiently high level of ambition, that's not a really good use of the money that's available. The second point would be, and this has been said before as well, there's a need for technical assistance in addition to just allocating money. It really is important to ensure that the money can be used on the ground and isn't just a number on some piece of paper. And lastly, it's important to align the recovery planning with long-term renovation strategies and the broader framework for renovation and decarbonization in Europe. The recovery plans, I think, are really important in signaling us where the journey is going in terms of Europe's decarbonization and green recovery. They certainly won't be enough to go get us all the way. There are other funding sources, also domestic budgets, private finance, but the recovery plans are really useful for showing the direction. But again, then they need to be aligned with those broader frameworks. And that's also, I think, something really important, also not just now, but also during the implementation. And I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Through the results of the Green Recovery Tracker. We have the first round of comments over. I will now ask my colleagues to start or open the poll for our participants in the Zoom platform. The poll asks to choose 3 options of the available in that asking how can the European Commission support member states in delivering high rate and depth of renovation with the recovery money and cohesion funding and any other areas. And before the poll results are available, I will return the ball to our panelists and ask you guys, what do you think? Because I think it is very, very much clear also from what you said. The money is there, the need to renovate building is there, but the question is how we link the money with the renovation, how we use the money for renovation to take off, and how we make sure that the renovation actually contributes to the green transition. So I don't want you to, interfere with national policies, but I think you have opinion about what should be done at the member states level to make the money work and start the renovation wave on the country level. May I ask Mrs. Mihailova, you to start with your opinion?
Yes, of course. As I said, Bulgaria is a little bit lagging now at the moment. Not so much a little bit, but anyway, I'll try to use my experience from my country in regional policy and experience in the European Parliament in negotiating the programs, both regionals and then for example, Horizon Europe program. I will come to my first suggestion. It will be extremely important for each one of the member states, including Bulgaria, to create a good balance between different instruments, to find way to coordinate the efforts and planning, to find way to use in the most efficient way all the available financial instruments, because it is truth. We have money, we have clear targets, we have goals, we even have directions from the European Commission how to step by step achieve these goals. And again, we have problems in implementation on the national level. It means that on the national level, we do not have enough good coordination between different mechanisms. We do not have enough good coordination between different actors on the national level, because the actors are national authorities, local authorities, civil society, citizens of European Union. And we should not miss any one of them in planning the good coordinated efforts. So for me, the key answer is coordination and smart planning.
Strengthening stakeholder dialogue.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Niedermayer, what do you think should be done on the national level to make this work? I think you suggested something with your challenges, but I think you also have not only challenges, but also some proposals for solutions.
So it's always easier to identify problems than to come with the solution. But let me see that there are two different directions of investments that we are talking about, and I would say that each of them are facing different challenges. So you can see that you will see that probably a lot of governments will invest the EU money for renovating the building on its possession. So that means buildings of government or state organizations or schools or municipalities and etc. And I would say it's not a necessary bad thing. Obviously, essential condition is that this is the building that actually needs to be used by the government, because to renovate something that you don't need or you will sell, it doesn't make a big sense. But I guess on the top of that, one should also consider where is the biggest gain. So, for example, I have seen that our government is considering modernization of the train station building, and I don't know if the improvement in energy efficiency and savings of emissions are higher in this kind of building compared to alternative investments. The other and more complicated issue is the issue of supporting renovation in the private sector, and here I can highlight, for example, two problems that we are facing. The first is that in Czech Republic during last, let's say, 10 to 15 years, there was some wave of renovation of the building, at least those that were easy to renovate. And now there is a question at which moment it makes sense, economically speaking, to redone the renovation on higher standards. But the problem is that obviously the energy saving will not be substantial, and people wouldn't see that as added value. But the other problem, and this is specifically when I talk about interaction or interplay between environmental goals and climate goals, we, for example, in Czech Republic are in the situation when some programs focused on improvement in the environment, for example, in the area of air quality, are crowding out the programs that would be good for the climate. In my country, the government has started quite a big program of exchange of boilers for heating in the private, especially in private residential building, with very generous subsidies. But when you get into the position that you replace your old dirty coal boiler with the efficient power heat pump, then obviously the problem is that possible renovation of the building and increase of energy efficiency will have very miserable rate of return, and that means that all people will not go for that, or eventually they will require very high level of the subsidy. That is, I believe, the problematic. So I guess when you are talking about private sector and private investment, it's very difficult to find the right balance, because obviously to do things really perfectly, it is expensive. But then you end up in kind of paradox situation that only richest will be those who will get the money from the government for renovation of their own building. And this is socially a little bit a difficult concept, despite of the fact that from the point of view of climate protection, it can fly. But on the other hand, if you make programs less demanding, so for example, allow only new installation of the boiler for heating, you can end up in the situation when people will be stuck with not very efficient building, but it would be very difficult to build incentive for them to do really serious renovation. But last not least, and this is the positive sign, I must say that if you look at the level or quality of new constructions from the point of view of energy efficiency, we are really in 21st century. So during next decade, I hope this very low efficiency building will be gradually, step by step, crowded out by the new buildings with a very high level of the efficiency. But still, the question of efficient design of the programs, efficient selection of the government, who and how to support is key question. And so far in Czech Republic, I feel a little bit frustrating that we are not exactly winning in this fight to find the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I can confirm that we unfortunately see this in a number of Eastern European countries, that boiler replacement is being supported without taking care of the renovation and energy efficiency. But I know that the European Union within the Green Deal has adopted the rule of energy efficiency first. So I think that's something that we need to work together on implementing across our region. Felix, very quickly, you also mentioned in your first introduction the need to increase the ambition of renovations and the need to provide technical assistance alongside with the allocations. How do you see that in individual countries? Do you see this happening? Do they plan for some measures to do that, or is this missing in the recovery plans?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is no single picture across countries, because obviously every national discourse is different and national situations are different. And I think what we're also seeing is that some countries are doing better at this than others. So, for example, Slovakia is doing quite well on sort of creating this overall environment where efficiency investments are enabled, but then also encouraged and made possible in a way that we believe will really lead to the positive impacts that are necessary to really be effective in the way that Mr. Niedermeyer also described to be necessary. So there's differences between countries, and I think it would also be really good to get a sort of process of essentially peer-to-peer learning throughout the implementation of the recovery funds to really enable governments, but also businesses, civil society actors to really collaborate on this to enable a race to the top, but in a not necessarily competitive sense, but really just in a way that enables countries to learn from each other. Because, as I said in the beginning, the availability of this funding and the circumstances under which it has to be dispersed and used and can be used are quite unique. So I think everyone is facing novel challenges. So making sure that people can learn from each other and we can make sure that this money is being used everywhere in the most efficient way possible would be really beneficial. But again, when we're also currently working on a project where we look more deeply into the efficiency components of the buildings, and that isn't finalized yet. But one thing that has come back repeatedly from partners in member states across the region is the need for technical assistance. It's, by the way, also the need to emphasize the efficiency first principle, but also the alignment of strategies I mentioned. So these are some cross-cutting themes for sure.
Thank you, and I'm glad you highlighted Slovakia, and I want to assure everyone that it is not because I'm from Slovakia. And so thank you. So we have discussed very briefly what the member states could do to link the money from recovery facility with renovation, but we at the same time ask our participants, our audience, what they think the European Commission could do to help member states put the money to work. Can we see the results of the poll, please? Okay, so I need to. So from the audience, the response is for these top three measures. So first, the audience thinks that the European Commission could provide more specific support for project development to create pipeline of renovation projects. Second, make state aid rules more feasible for energy efficiency renovations. And the third option, third measure, is that the European Commission could provide more targeted assistance to national authorities for implementation of European legislation. So, on one hand, supporting project development for future execution. Second place is state aid rules. And the third is targeted assistance to national authorities for implementation. We will certainly forward this opinion to Maria Teresa, who had already left the call as was announced. But I just want to ask our other panelists what they think about this. Is this something that the European Union and the Commission is working on or should be working on, also in your opinion? Maybe I will now start with Felix.
As it is, for the Commission to work on all the topics that relate to the Green Deal as its sort of flagship project. And I definitely think that in all the actions as we move from the goal setting stage when it comes to climate to the implementation phase, as I think we are, it is very important for the Commission to accompany this, to set ambitious standards. I mean, we are expecting the Fit for 55 package in a few weeks, which of course is quite a huge moment across the board for implementing targets. So yes, the Commission has got a big role to play, but I would emphasize that the national governments too are really important, and often they are the ones who are defining what the Commission can and cannot work with. So I don't want to let the Commission off the hook. I think what they do is really important, but equally I think what's happening at the national level, because that's at the end where the real action will be in terms of implementing changes, is at least as important too. So I agree, but I also think there's a lot of other important actors in town.
Yeah, that's another question that it's only European Commission. Of course, we are speaking about different players. Mr. Niedermayer, is state aid rules, its project development, is it something that you think should be more supported or more focus paid to?
Makes sense, but I guess we are not using something that is just in front of us, and this is basically the experience sharing. If we would pay more attention in learning from those who do well and implement their findings into our acting into our programs, I guess this would be a major step forward. So I'm still puzzled why, despite of the fact that it's so easy to organize the meeting, exchange the experience, maybe even create a database, and that means to utilize the best available know-how across the EU, why we are not using that more frequently. So this is what I would add to your hypothesis, where EU should play or can play a bigger role.
Thank you. And Mrs. Mihailova, what is your opinion? Are these topics in focus of the Commission or the European Union? Do you think they would help renovation?
Of course, these topics are in the focus of the European Commission, I'm sure on this, but I will share absolutely the opinion that we need to exchange the good practice experience. Because without the good practice experience, we can be lost in our national problems. And one more comment, if you allow me. I will say that unfortunately, this picture shows that most of the audience of today's webinar, as most of the citizens of eastern part of Europe trust more to the European Commission than to the national governments, because the project's pipeline, preparation of the project, this is responsibility of the national authorities. First of all, of course, European Commission can support, of course can advise, of course can guarantee the technical assistance, of course can follow the implementation of state aid. but the responsibility of the national authorities is extremely important. The European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council, we did what we could do. We approved, the Commission expressed the idea about Next Generation. We approved the idea and we made everything what was possible to make it visible and understandable for the member states. Now it is turn for the member states. And unfortunately, I see this picture, more trust to the European Commission than to the national governments.
Thank you, and I think these words very nicely conclude the first panel. I mean, it's a very important message. I would like to thank you, Mrs. Mihailova, Mr. Niedermayer, and Mr. Heilmann, as well as Mrs. Fabregas, who is not with us anymore. I still invite you to stay with us because I would like at the end of the webinar to reflect also on our discussion that will follow in the next panel. That is going to be more from the national perspective. And I, in the meantime, invite our speakers for this panel to connect so that we can start in a minute. And so thank you again. And in the meantime, let me maybe summarize in my words what we have discussed in the panel. With our European level speakers. So first of all, we heard that the national recovery and resilience plans are being submitted to the European Commission. So far, 23 have been submitted. There are still four missing. Renovation has been defined by the Commission as one of the flagship areas. And according to the Green Recovery Tracker prepared by E3G, it also shows in the plans for the region, for the Central and Eastern European region, because we see buildings as priority according to the allocation, which is above the average of the European Union. What we also heard is that tomorrow the European Commission starts adopting process of the Council implementing decisions. So we are likely to see some first recovery plans approved and confirmed, and then we will see probably during summer or after summer the need to start implementing with the implementation process on the level of member states. What we heard from our panelists was also that there is a huge role of the member state government, national governments on making recovery and resilience plans success in terms of renovation. And not only recovery and resilience plans, this was one of the points of Mrs. Mihailova, that we need to make sure at the national level that there is a synergy between all the instruments that are available for renovation, including not only the Next Generation EU or the recovery and resilience plans, but also Just Transition Fund or Modernization Fund, cohesion funding, but also Horizon 2020 and other funds. The second point is the need for communication about what this means for the countries, why renovation is important, and communication across and in between different stakeholders. Strengthening the stakeholder dialogue at the national level is paramount to implementing the ambitious recovery plans. We also heard about challenges faced, well, in the Czech Republic, but as I say, I mean, I know a little bit the situation in other countries in our region, in our Eastern European region, and I can confirm that the challenges are very, very similar. So first of all, the lack of political ownership of the topic of climate change is something that makes situation of renovation of buildings a bit harder. And the second, how to design good programs that are not too administratively complex, that are not unstable and not too complicated. That's always a challenge, and it will be a challenge with the recovery plans, while we probably should focus on replicating good practice from where it already is present. And last but not least, I want to highlight the words of Felix Heilmann, who emphasized the need for increased ambition of renovation and of building technical assistance for building owners for preparing the projects for renovation and for executing the renovation in a high quality standards. So that was the first panel on our topic today from the European perspective, and we are now moving to the panel with national perspective speakers. And I'm waiting for my colleagues to tell me if we are ready for the next panel. And we are ready. Thank you. I'm very happy to welcome another set of speakers with us. Thank you for accepting the invitation again. I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Marius Vasiliu, who is Secretary of State at the Romanian Ministry of Investment and European Projects. Good afternoon. I also would like to welcome Mrs. Irena Križ-Selendić from the Croatian Ministry of Physical Planning, Construction and State Assets, where she serves as the head of sector. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. Tanya Hristova, Mrs. Hristova is mayor of the city of Gabrovo in Bulgaria. Welcome.
Well, hello, greetings.
Good afternoon. And last but not least, Jakub Hrbek from Czech Republic, who serves as director of national programs at the National Environmental Fund. Good afternoon, Jakub.
Good afternoon to all.
Okay, so again, thank you for taking time to be with us and with our audience. And I would invite Mr. Vasiliu. What is your experience with preparing the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, and how do you think about its implementation when it comes to renovation of buildings? Have you started implementation? What are the main challenges, and where do you see opportunities? The 3 to 4 minute floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. First of all, let me thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. This second forum after this first webinar in October last year. As I said, it's an opportunity to discuss our way forward or common challenges, to share views and experience, to learn for lessons in the past, and all of this in our common attempt of renewing our renovation perspective. As Commissioner Simon said 1 month ago in Berlin, we have a long way to go. And the rate of renovation in Europe needs to more than double, and the quality must improve. But it's not all about volume. We need to make sure that these funds flow more freely, are used more effectively, and contribute to a just transition. And this is quite according to your introduction. From this perspective, we really welcome the study, more effective use of 2021-2027 cohesion funds for energy security of the Visegrad, which includes ideas and recommendations that can be shared by our national administration. It seems that these common challenges regard the design of the support intensity, a better approach to call for projects in terms of preparing long-term continuous calls with stable conditions rather than start-stop systems of calls. Also, integration of financial instruments in the design of operational programs, as public funds are not covering all the needs. And also we speak about better regulation of energy performance contracts and increased use of technical assistance, such as networks of counseling centers at the regional level. For Romania, the renovation of the residential and non-residential buildings is a high priority, as also indicated the country report from 2019 and also 2020. And also statistic data show that in our country, in Romania, the building sector is responsible for 45% of the total final energy consumption. It's a huge percent. Up to the end of 2020, only 6% of the total national stock of buildings have been renovated from the energy efficiency, and the share of the residential buildings to be further renovated is 91% of national stock. In order to define the way forward, we finalized and adopted the long-term renovation strategy. This strategy contains an estimation of total financing envelope needed to achieve targets in 2030, which is 12.8 billion euro. It's almost the entire amount of grants we are now propose, and we have it from recovery and resilience plan. The targets of the strategy will be achieved by means of package of financial measures comprising grants from European funds, from National Recovery and Resilience Plan, regional operational programs, also just transitional operational program, and of course we have allocation from the state budget, environment fund, and as well we will use financial instruments. We envisage to invest from National Recovery and Resilience Plan 2.2 billion euro, almost 2 billion euros from the new regional operational programs, and to have also some important contribution from the Just Transition Fund. A particular specificity of investments is that in most of our regions, we need therefore we finance integrated projects mainly in order to mitigate the seismic risks. From the previous experience of the implementation of energy efficiency funding, we are aware that financing is important, but it's not enough to guarantee results and success. That's why we design our priorities in the National Recovery Resilience Plan, starting from the need to reform and to design a sustainable system, and to accelerate the rhythm of renovation. And from this perspective, we target for the simplification of the applicable legislation. We also target for 50% decrease of the time necessary for the approval of technical documentations, dedicated professional training for at least 6,000 specialists in the sector by the end of 2023. The setup of the National Digital Register of Buildings, including energy efficiency passports, and the use of financial instruments as alternatives, as I said before, with high leverage potential in the sector. These are some of the measures we are ready to promote, but I look forward to the discussion of this panel, and I'm confident that our vision and experience will bring forward our most valuable solution.
Thank you, Mr. Vasiliu, for presenting the very ambitious plans in Romania, and I'm really
Indeed.
like to congratulate you. Romania had also launched, I think it was last year or 2019, a completely new program to subsidize renovation of single-family homes. So that's also a very good undertaking and a progress. Mrs. Krish Selendic, can you please update us on the situation in Croatia? How you approach the recovery plan and how you plan to put the money in use for the sake of renovation? And I know that Croatia unfortunately went through a series of very serious earthquakes. I'm sorry, and yeah, and so I understand that the country needs to focus on renewal of the cities. So will there be also, alongside with renewing the structures of the buildings, also a focus on energy efficiency, and how do you plan to combine this? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So in December of 2020, the government of Croatia adopted the long-term renovation strategy of national building stock until 2050. And current rate of energy renovation in Croatia for the last 5 years was only 0.7% or 1.35 million square meters per year. So in long-term renovation strategy, objective is to gradually increase the renovation rate from 1% of the floor area this year, so in 2021, to 3% by 2030, which is a very ambitious goal, but this is in line with the proposed renovation rate in the European Commission Renovation Wave Initiative. So the goal by 2030 is to renovate almost 18 million square meters of residential and about 10 million square meters of non-residential buildings, which requires investment of over 9 billion euros. So I must say Croatia is an incomparably more difficult economic situation, given that in the year of the pandemic, Croatia was also affected by devastating earthquakes with consequences in main city of Zagreb and its surrounding, and in the southeast part of the country, Banovina. The damage from these earthquakes is currently estimated at 130 billion kunas, which is more than 80% of the annual state budget. So more than 24,000 buildings were damaged in these earthquakes, like kindergartens, primary schools, secondary schools, university buildings, scientific institutions, sports facilities, and many cultural institutions too. So Croatian Recovery and Resilience Plan consists of 5 components and 1 initiative. We have these components like economy, public administration, education, labor market, healthcare, and what is most important for us today, it's flag initiative renovation of buildings, for which 12% of the plan are provided. The building renovation initiative includes the decarbonization of buildings and energy savings in buildings, earthquake reconstruction, which includes seismic reinforcement and energy renovation altogether, strengthening the capacity for building renovation, and renovation of buildings with cultural heritage status. So this decarbonization of building reform is manifested through 3 related investments. 1 is energy renovation of buildings, 2nd is reconstruction of earthquake damaged buildings with energy reconstruction, and 3rd one is energy renovation of buildings with the cultural heritage status. And the total estimated value for this in renovation of buildings component is almost 400 million of euros. As far as cohesion funds are concerned, the schedule of allocation in Croatia is still ongoing. But what is unfortunately being monitored now is that there will be less money for the duration of the buildings than in the previous period because needs are high in all sectors and allocation are limited. So we have this comprehensive renovation, which is seismic reinforcement and energy renovation all together. And in all these components, when you have only energy renovation or when you have seismic renovation, you have to fulfill the first requirement is 50% of savings in heating or 30% in primary energy, at least, for every single building that we will recover in this program.
Thank you. That's again very ambitious plans. And as your colleague from Romania, you also confirmed that the need for renovation is huge, also in Croatia, as well as in Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, and any country I can name from the region. Mrs. Ristova, you are a mayor of a city, and so you are also on the side of the user of the fund. What is your experience, and what do you expect from the future funds and programs? What would help you best use the money for renovating buildings in your city, please?
First of all, let me congratulate you about the topic that you selected for today's debate because renovation of our buildings, nevertheless, whether they are public or private, is really high priority for the whole Europe, I'm sure. I will start by saying something that I should every day would like to hear as a subject of public debate and dialogue. And it is the fact that the Renovation Wave strategy, which was launched by the European Commission last year, is a unique opportunity to massively invest in better social and economic future and is essential for the next generation prosperity because it is part of the efforts to meet the European climate neutrality goal. In this regard, as you have mentioned, local and regional authorities are really essential actors of the renovation wave, and this is confirmed also by Ms. von der Leyen, who says that because this is the place where the change really happens. Therefore, cities are crucial for implementing the green transformation on the ground and in our cities and also villages. In this ambitious initiative, local authorities should insist and have a holistic role rather to be seen as only mere implementers. As you mentioned, I'm a mayor of a Bulgarian city, but I also have the privilege to be a member of the European Committee of the Regions and would like to share with you some of our efforts which are directed to establish easier and faster financial mechanism for local and regional authorities in order to undertake renovation projects. European cities and regions call very emphasizing for a revision of the state aid schemes. We insist for more flexible budget rules in order to maximize investment and renovations. Also to establish subnational targets for the renovation of buildings and the integration of renewable energy sources in the renovation projects. Cities and regions also urge European Commission to work with Member States to establish more flexible budget rules for local and regional administrations so as to enhance our capacity and to invest in renovation of existing buildings. The renovation wave must be supported by a solid technical assistance which should be available at local and regional levels. There are some additional proposals that would be also of very positive usage when it comes to applying energy programs locally. it is very important to undertake measures which avoid renovictions. You know, this is evictions by renovations, which means that we should avoid transferring and increasing the cost for the final beneficiaries. The renovation wave must be equally deployed to less urbanized, more outlying areas, also including the rural ones. It is very important to recognize the fundamental role of the Climate Pact and the efficiency of the capacity as a tools that could be subject and appropriate for the local authorities. And because the focus of our panel is to share different experience, I would like to share my experience as a mayor and the experience that we have so far in Bulgaria. 5 years ago, our government started national program for energy efficiency of multi-family residential buildings. This program was very ambitious because it amounted for more than 1 billion euro and allowed for the residential inhabitants to apply for 100 grants in order to renovate their homes. The important fact was that for the first time, the public authorities, the municipalities, was engaged with the whole process. We were engaged with the selections of the project, with the public procurement, and also with the implementation. And moreover, we were engaged to maintain contacts and to convince inhabitants to include in this program. At the beginning, there was a kind of a resistance from the inhabitants, and in my city, only 37 residential buildings, of course, with more than 1,000 families, received the positives of this program. When the citizens saw the benefits of this initiative, the interest increased many times. Even only for 1 year, there were more than 200 additional applications which are waiting for renovation measures. Unfortunately, this program was frozen since 2016. Now all our expectations are related to recovery and resilience national programs. Unfortunately, our Bulgarian one, due to political issues, is now under reconstruction, but we very much rely and insist that the needs for energy efficiency and for the renovations of our homes and of our public buildings will be considered with serious attention and with the high flexibility and appropriateness. The last version of this program allocates more than 1.5 billion euro for energy efficiency measures, of which 1 billion euro was allocated for residential buildings. Local authorities can acknowledge together with citizens the positive aspect of similar initiatives, and this is of course also judged by the national program that we managed to implement together, because it is energy and financially beneficial, not only by direct savings, but also it contributes to implementing the energy balance and energy security of our country. It brings also environmental benefits, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and reducing the air pollutions. And of course, one of the best positive advantages are the social and economic ones, because it mitigates energy property, it creates new job opportunities, and of course, it improves the health and the living comfort of our citizens. But this program, the national one, allowed us to see some negative aspects of similar 100% initiatives, which should be very carefully considered, because by continuing with this approach, probably we will not be able to implement and to renovate quite a big amount of residential buildings. We need, therefore, to have flexible models that will ensure that the program will bring maximum impact and also energy savings and gas emission savings. We also need to have enough resources for monitoring. We need resources for training and education. And we also, I believe, it will be very positive implication. We must convince our government that it is good to develop and to allow for pilots and innovative projects that could first test good solutions and then allow for scaling up. And municipalities are quite good platforms for combining the science, the business, the constructing business, and also involving and testing different models, including the financing ones, with our citizens. So we are very much convinced that this time, through the Recovery and Resilience Facility and our national program, we will have the chance to develop a program that will be really flexible and will consist of different packages, financial packages, that will be targeting the different types of buildings and the ambitions that we will relate to different types of block stock. We also, as a municipality and as public authorities, need to have enough capacity and also knowledge on different instruments, including energy performance contracting, on-bill and on-tax financing, also specialized national and local revolving funds, guarantee mechanism, green and reverse mortgages, and many more, in order to be able to provide best possible services through the intended one-stop shops, and to make possible these plant resources really reach our citizens and transform our cities into smart and thriving ones. And now I would like finally to share something which is, in our understanding, a good practice which is now happening in our city. It is the fact that we are implementing innovative financial scheme. It is energy performance contract, which we believe will be really a successful one and will be used as a model to motivate other colleagues in Bulgaria. And this is in the field of modernizing our street lighting. And I think this is enough from my side. Just one thing that I would like to mention is that in this regards, concerning energy efficiency and the renovation wave, we need more debate and more conversation with different partners, including the central government and representatives from the business, and also the involvement of citizens. And I would like finally to mention about an initiative that we are planning for 24th and 25th of June, where in Gabrovo, in a hybrid model, we will organize our energy and climate days. They are part of our EU Green Leaf Award, which we are privileged to have for this year. And I would like to welcome all of you who are interested in this initiative to join us. we have English interpretation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ristova. That was a very, very interesting introduction. I will now give floor to Jakub Hrbek from the Czech Republic, who has for a number of years been leading the New Green Savings, a Czech subsidy program to renovate single-family homes, mostly single-family homes, not only. I know that there is some linkage between this program and the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So, Jakub, how do you see the role of the Czech Recovery Plan on your program that you're running under the Environmental Fund?
Okay, good afternoon to all again. First of all, I would like to thank the C4E team to inviting me to this event, and hopefully we will see each other in September in person. So my point of view is that we are one part of the implementing structure in the Czech Republic. So maybe I would agree with Mr. Niedermayer that the approach of the state when talking to planning and long-term planning is really shattered. There are many subjects on the field of energy efficiency and maybe buildings reconstruction, and that's the problem. We, as a state environmental fund of the Czech Republic, we are implementing the new Green in Savings program, which is targeted to residential buildings. And the program is pretty stable, and we started in 2014. So now we have the year 2021. So we are ongoing for I don't know 6 years or 7 years, and with one program, one call, or technically it was 3 calls, but the let's say conditions didn't change much. So I think we got tens of thousands of beneficiaries in this program countrywide, and let's say we see that this is a good approach how to do it, because of if you give the stable environment for the beneficiaries, they will appreciate it, and they are able to prepare their projects by themselves and then renovate as they are ready. So maybe I think it's a good practice in this region. But of course, you can anytime you can, let's say, improve the programs more and more. So that's on which are we looking now. So we are, of course, looking for another fundings, and RRF is one of them, of the sources. But on the other side, we have modernization fund, we have structure funds, and of course some natural resources. And our goal is to mix it up and it with let's say palette of the schemes or programs to assist all the beneficiaries to green transition. So we are trying to push our government to really be, let's say, to make the programs, let's say, more connected to talk with each other. And I think it's the whole thing. And we appreciate the chance given by the Commission and, of course, the EIB in these new tools, which will help us to increase the speed, depth of the renovation wave. So I'm looking forward to it. It's really much to do in here in Czech Republic, and we see that there are many problems. We are, let's say, looking on Elena, for example, which it seems could help us with project development pipelines. and we are looking or searching the new opportunities and implement them into our programs. As my predecessor said, they are ready or they are implementing one-stop shops, and maybe that's one of our goals to let's say give the assistance for the beneficiaries, for the people around, to let's say navigate them and to tell them that energy efficiency, it's a good thing and they should stick to it and do it. So yeah, I think that's all for now from my side.
Thank you, Jakub, also for your comment on improving the already well-established program. And that's certainly a challenge to improve something that is already good. I will now ask my colleagues to open another poll in the Zoom platform for our audience, in which we are asking about 3 measures that the national governments could do with the recovery plan and cohesion funds to increase the speed and depth of renovation. The poll is now open, so please take your time to just mark three measures, up to 3 options, and we'll come back to the results soon. But in the meantime, may I ask our panelists, you are now working with basically European money, a program that has been designed, of course, by the European Commission, and it has been commented and consulted and approved by the member states. But still, is there something that you would like highly appreciate from the European Commission to help you implement the recovery plan in your countries? Is there something that you especially appreciate from the Commission, some kind of support or measure, Mr. Vasiliou? I think we have a problem. We can't hear you. Can you try again?
Now?
Yes, it's perfect.
I think okay. We are beneficiaries from a special instrument of the Commission from Recovery and Resilience Plan, and we intend to have technical assistance from the World Bank, who will help us to implement the plan, also in the field of renovation, but also the help of the World Bank through this instrument of technical assistance will be used in every component, especially in costing, implementation, mechanism of control, all of these sensitive aspects of the implementation of the plan.
Thank you. How about Croatia? Are you using some support from the Commission or maybe from World Bank, as Mr. Vasiliou mentioned?
We are using the World Bank assistance too. Yes.
It is truly a World Bank because it is used in so many countries. By the way, is there any support available from World Bank or EIB or any other to cities such as to Gabrovo? Are you using some kind of support?
Yes, especially concerning the Just Transition Facility, we are working with the World Bank. But if I had the chance to ask directly the Commission for direct support to public authorities, I would mention 3 points. We need support for implementing successful communication strategies related to the renovation. We also would be grateful to have more technical direct assistance concerning the financial instruments and their different application. And also, especially for me, it is quite interesting for my city to receive support for the development of district level plan, because it is not enough to start with renovation or introducing energy efficiency measures in buildings. We have to realize that buildings are part of from an ecosystem, and we have to approach this in an integrated and holistic way. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's advanced thinking. Yes. Okay. And where do you see the biggest challenge of implementing the national plans in terms of when it comes to renovation? Is it the interest from the building owners, and how do you plan to overtake it? Or is it maybe the way how the money is distributed, the capacities of the government? Are you planning to, for instance, build the technical assistance centers or one-stop shops, like your own one-stop shops? Or are you planning to maybe use existing structures, such as the commercial banks that have thousands of branches across the country, and that could serve as the places to go and to submit the application for subsidy? Is this something that you are thinking of? And maybe I start with Jakob Herberg and his experience with the New Green Savings. How does this work, and how do you want to improve on it?
Yeah, okay, it's a good question, because of, it's not easy to really implement such a thing as a one-stop shop, because of there are many subjects, and there are many beneficiaries and types of beneficiaries. If we are talking about the public, the owners of family houses, and maybe owners of the flats in the apartment buildings, we know that you have to come really close. And really close means that maybe you catch them by their hand in front of their building, because of many people don't go to the bank anymore. Maybe they are using just internet banking, and of course they are afraid to take a loan or something like that. So I think we did some projects with some of the banks in here in Czech Republic, and it was not really helpful nowadays. Maybe in the future, as the time will change, we will reopen this topic. But nowadays we are trying to use the network of energy advisors, which are supported by Ministry of Trade and Industry in an effect program, and there are, I don't know, hundreds of them among the Czech Republic, and we are trying to, let's say, bring the people in here and motivate them to ask what they should do with their houses, and offer them, let's say, a free piece of, let's say, study, which will give them the basic, let's say, pipeline, how to get started and what to do first, and what are the possibilities of funding their project. So we need this to make the first step. I think this is the biggest problem. If the people know what they want to do, it's easy. They will come to us or maybe the bank and whatever. But the first step and to motivate these people is the, let's say, biggest challenge, I think.
Thank you. That's a very good insight, and I'm glad to hear that you are using an external force of the energy advisors to help increase the number of applications. How about in Croatia, Ms. Krish Selendic? What are you planning to do to make sure that the ambitious budget is really applied for from the homeowners?
So, in the preparation for the renovation, the problem of a large number of documents that need to be provided by building owners in order to exercise the right to renovate the building has been identified by now. So the long-standing problem of the administrative burden on citizens have also been identified through the Commission specific recommendations to Croatia, which outline the need to reduce the administrative burden and regulatory constraints. So the answer to these challenges is the development of one-stop shop service for energy and earthquake reconstruction. The one-stop shop service will serve citizens and will be a center for information, counseling, and facilitation of the implementation of reconstruction activities after the earthquake and for energy renovation too. So the goal is also to further improve existing one-stop shop for energy renovation, which we have in our environment fund, and to develop one-stop shop online services and offline offices for earthquake affected areas. The reform involves meeting the goals of the digital transition. So the online aspect of the service involves the development of the platform that will provide information about administrative procedures, communication with relevant experts who provide consulting services, capacity building and knowledge, and initiating the necessary administrative steps. The online aspect of this service will connect to the e-citizen system that already exists in Croatia. And the offline aspect of this service involves the establishment of not many offices in the earthquake affected areas. The office will bring together a team of advisory and experts from relevant areas who will act in direct communication with citizens and address existing challenges. And if I may add, during the first activities related to reconstruction after the earthquake in March last year, there was a need for a large number of people with professional competencies who can adequately and carry out comprehensive reconstruction activities. So we have a lack of educated workforce and that negatively affected the possibilities of more efficient reconstruction after earthquakes. So this is the other significant problem in Croatia.
Thank you. It's great to hear that you are thinking of so many interlinked aspects, not only about putting the money in place, but also about training the workforce and creating the one-stop shops and online platform. By the way, the availability of workforce is a very common topic across the region and will be probably of increasing importance. I would like to now ask my colleagues to show us the results of the poll, which I think will feed in our discussion. So we should see them very quickly. Yes, we are now seeing them. So we asked the audience, what should national governments do with recovery plans and cohesion funds to increase the speed and depth of renovation? And the top three measures include making support predictable and stable for at least 5-year periods so that companies and homeowners can plan for renovation. Second top or two other top measures include increasing allocation for building renovation and increasing the capacity to provide technical assistance to building owners. So I think we managed to discuss a little bit about this last point, increasing the capacity to provide technical assistance. And we heard about the Czech Republic and Croatia creating one-stop shops and online platforms and working with energy advisors. In increasing allocation for building renovation, that's probably something that is relevant for the cohesion funds, as the recovery plans are already basically closed. So I will ask that. And let's touch upon a little bit of this predictability. Mr. Vasiliu, I would like to ask you about these two things. Are you? I know you mentioned in your opening remark, you mentioned that you are planning a training for 6,000 specialists. within the effort to support renovation of buildings. So I would like to understand a bit more about this, and what else do you plan to make it easier for the homeowners to apply for subsidies and to renovate their buildings. But also I want to understand, how do you plan to make the programs for renovation of buildings stable and predictable? Are you perhaps thinking about a continuous course instead of on and off short-term course, or what else are you planning to do? Again, we need to wait a bit. Okay. It's okay now. It's okay.
Okay. It's not my fault this time. As we heard the interventions before from our colleagues from Croatia and Slovakia, we can say we have a mix of these problems, and also in terms of our intentions to speed up the process. It's about the first one. We will talk about the level of financing that has to be increased, and we saw that we have 2.2 billion euros allocated under the ROPs, and also we have under 2000 to 2001 2027 we have total allocation under regional operational programs by 1.3 billion euros. That is this is about the allocation, but it's not only the allocation issue. It's also about the capacity issues, and also it's about upgrading the policies. As I said, yes, we intend to have professional trainings in the sector. It's about territorial competence centers in collaboration with universities. And also we speak about certification schemes for workers in the energy efficiency sector. And as you already underlined, yes, we envisage about 6,000 specialists to be trained. Also, in this effort to reduce the challenges for capacity issue and upgrading the policies, we talk about technical guidelines that will be issued for the design and construction of zero MZB buildings, non-invasive approach, energy efficiency intervention for the historical buildings. And the third intervention, we thought about integration of investments in investments areas in renovation, with our primary focus on energy efficiency and decarbonization, and how to RRF address the need to integrate quality of indoor environment, climate change adaptation, sustainability, also carbon or circularity in building renovation. And about circularity in building renovation, we under recovery and resilience plan, we envisage regional pilot projects dedicated to energy efficiency and circular economy. We intend to introduce the circular economy practices and standards in the renovation of historical buildings, part of the national cultural heritage, in order to ensure the collection and reutilization of construction materials. And also we have to talk in terms of sustainability. And one of the main measures foreseen in recovery and resilience plan implies the setup of the national digital register of buildings, which will be complementary to the Inspire Geo portal and will ensure data for the monitoring of the national long-term renovation strategy. The register will be later on developed to include all technical data about the buildings and to be interconnected with other relevant databases, for example, the energy providers. Uh, if you may, I can detail about barriers we or identified that moment, such as the legislative framework, including rules of on public procurement, and we envisage such a reform on public procurements to reduce very much the terms for these procedures. Also, the lack of schemes or ESCO certification standards valid for all EU member states. Also difficult to access funding, about bureaucracy, a lot of bureaucracy, also in Romania, not only in Croatia. Technical risks perceived as high, and the last but not the least, competition between energy efficiency investments and core business investments, avoiding outsourcing energy management by local administrations.
Thank you. That's a very comprehensive view, and thank you for that. We are now basically coming to the end of the webinar, so I will invite now the panelists from the first panel to join us together for some final reflections. But while they connect, may I just summarize what I heard in this second panel from our guests from Romania, Croatia, Bulgaria, and the Czech Republic. And for me, the main conclusion is that one thing that the recovery plan means for our Central and Eastern European region is that there is money for subsidizing renovation of buildings. But that's one thing, and the money will be spent, and one day the money will be gone. But the other thing is that there is so much more happening in the countries in this field, and these are things that will stay. And that's the one-stop shops, that's the online platforms, that's the training and education measures, that's the digital register of buildings that Mr. Vassiliou mentioned. And these are all things that will stay there after the recovery and resilience period is over. And we will benefit from it if we do it right. We will benefit from it for years to come after the period of national recovery and resilience plan is over. So I think that's great. I would like to now maybe ask everyone who is still with us to make a final reflection on what we discussed today. The floor is yours, but maybe if I may suggest, you just name one thing that you consider as the major opportunity for renovation using the European funds, and one thing as the main challenge. And if you, I think I have one specific question that I still want to raise, but I will raise it with the person that I want to raise it to. And so I will start with ladies first, and I will start with Mrs. Ristova, the mayor of city of Gabrovo. So what's your reflection on what you heard today?
What I want to say is that being a mayor of a Bulgarian city, I would like to bring the message that our citizens deserve to have a good renovation program, and they deserve to have their homes renovated which will also transform their quality of living and will make them happier and healthier. So it is on our shoulders, the politicians, not to waste time and to set good ambitious goals which could be translated and supported with appropriate measures that will be transformed via public authorities to the citizens. And I'm sure that this initiative could bring the confidence of citizens to the institutions.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Krish-Selendic, a brief reflection.
So, this National Recovery and Resilience Plan are a great opportunity to push energy renovation and speed it up towards to these ambitious climate and energy goals that are in front of us in every member state. So we have to use it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. That certainly is true. Jakob Rubek, what's your reflection?
Okay, my reflection is that let's say the thing we have to do is really to communicate and share our experience among the states, the European states, and maybe it's more important to communicate in this region, CEE region, because of our conditions are pretty bit same. So it's maybe more important to share the practices in our states. And of course, our goal or our challenge is to convince everybody that, let's say, energy efficiency is a really good thing and it's important thing. And without it, our future is endangered. And maybe I think so. And it goes to the politicians, of course, in the Czech Republic, because of, as Mr. Niedermayer said, it's not a big point to the politicians in here. So we have to convince them it's important, and I think that European Commission makes a great deal in here to pushing it through, and I think or I hope we will use the money and of course the opportunity wisely, as the lady before me said. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So communicating and making this attractive. Mr. Vasiliou, what do you think is the main challenge and opportunity?
I think the main challenge remains the possibility to finalize all our expectations until August 2026. And also the biggest opportunity we saw with recovery and resilience plan, the main opportunity due to this milestone and targets and all the conditions coming from the regulation of provisions of the regulation. And we are aware of that risks. And as politicians, we are forced to be very responsible when we will when we put it all the measures in the plan, because it's obvious that if we don't achieve our goals, we will practically not lose only the money, but we will put in danger our children's future.
Thank you. Yes, the responsibility is huge. Yes, thank you. And with that, we come back to our panelists from the first session. I first of all want to excuse Mr. Niedermayer, who had to leave for another meeting already. So I will start now with Felix Heilmann and ask you for a very brief reflections. And I want to add a small question here, because you commented on the national recovery and resilience plans and talked about how good the allocation is here in our region compared to average for building renovation. But is it actually possible that a recovery plan is submitted to the European Commission without including the component of building renovation? Because we know at least of one country that has done so.
Well, I guess if a country has done so, it's at least possible to do so politically. Whether the Commission will accept that, I cannot say. I can't speak for the Commission. Certainly, investing into buildings has been said by Mr. Bregash in the beginning, has been something the Commission has really emphasized. And I think it is a really low-hanging fruit, but also a really necessary part of the green transition that these recovery plans are meant to support. So I think there's a really, really strong case for including buildings investments. I do think, but I'm not an expert in this in particular, that legally it's possible to not invest in buildings as part of a recovery plan. There's no legal requirement for that to be included, but I do think it makes sense to include buildings recovery investments in particular in recovery plans. So yeah, I can't speak legally, but I think substantively there's a good case to be made for including buildings investments.
Thank you, thank you. And Mrs. Mihailova, what is your reflection?
As a final reflection after all these long and very interesting discussion, I'm happy that I had a chance to follow all the discussion. But I can say we have the opportunity. We have a number of opportunities. We can improve the energy efficiency of the building stocks. We can improve the healthy environment of our European citizens. We can develop innovation and in technology of construction and maintaining of the buildings. We have opportunity for digitalization of the smart buildings. We have the opportunity to create jobs through the renovation wave around Europe, and a number of jobs. At the moment when the economy of European Union should recover after the pandemic crisis. In the same time as a challenge, I should say, we may have the smart buildings and smart cities, but we extremely need the smart authorities, responsibilities, and dialogue between the authorities and citizens.
Thank you, and that's a very key message to be taken home after this webinar. I want to thank all of the panelists. Thank you for investing 2 hours, more than 2 hours of your time today to talk about building renovation under the recovery plan. I thank you not only for that, but also because I realized that you have a huge responsibility, and the biggest challenge is actually with you on the national level to implement the very ambitious plans in the countries, and I know it's not easy. And from our side, from the side of NGOs and businesses, I want to assure you that we are ready to work with you and help you make this a success, because we have a common interest in making renovation work and perform in all of our countries. So thank you again for your time, for your efforts, and we are happy to work with you. We are very happy to welcome you also, and not only you as panelists, but everyone from the audience today at the C4E Forum, which will finally take place after more than 2 years of delay in September this year in Romania, in Poiana Brașov. At the end of September, the registration will reopen in a few days from now, maybe already tomorrow. So please make sure you register for an early bird conditions, and I'm really happy that we will be able to meet in person in Romania in 3 months from now to further discuss the renovation policies, but also to see each other in person and have more friendly discussions. Thank you again for taking the time, you as panelists, the entire audience, and I think that's it. Have a nice day, stay safe, and see you in Romania in September. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.